morning. My name is Anissa, and I will be your conference operator today. At this time, I would like to welcome everyone to the CA IT Client Management Global User Community Webcast. All lines have been placed on mute to prevent any background noise. After the speaker's remarks, there will be a question and answer session. If you would like to ask a question, you may press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. To withdraw your question, press the pound key. At this time, I would now like to turn the conference over to your host and your president of the user groups, Mr. Dana Gibson. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. This morning we're going to have Laurel Gentry tell us all about the new features of the 12.5 SP1 release. And then after that, we're going to have Brian Barnes give us a demo on the ecoDesktop. And if any of you have any topics for future webcasts that you can present, please let us know through the Q&A or through an email. Thank you. Laurel, it's all yours.
All right. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for taking the time to join us this morning. I'm just, I've gotten clear down to the bottom of my slides here, so I'll just go back to the top. Just a brief introduction. I'm Laurel Gentry, and I'm the product manager of IT Client Manager, Client Automation. And today we're going to be talking about the features that we've released in Service Pack 1, which just went GA on April 10th, so just a little over a week ago. And this is not just a typical service pack, because as we have worked on the new features, we've been releasing them into the service stream. So things like VDI Management, automated desktop migration, those things came through in the service stream, and we've rolled them all up into r12.5 SP1. And then I would like to talk about our next release roadmap, the things that we are going to be delivering as a feature pack that will be released as a patch on top of our 12.5 SP1 later this year. And we'll be having a beta currently targeted for around the June timeframe, so we'll talk about those features and the features that are on our longer-term roadmap. And then we have Brian Barnes on the line with us today. He's a CA product manager for ecoDesktop. Now, ecoDesktop is a CA product that helps you manage your power across a broad range of PCs and other desktop devices, and then it can show you in great detail the potential for savings in your environment. So after I wrap up my portion of the presentation, I will hand it over to Brian Barnes. This is the standard boilerplate legal. In some cases in this presentation, we'll be talking about future features that are not yet GA, that are considered roadmap, and this is just to say sometimes things can change. So our 12.5 SP1 did just go GA very recently, and as I mentioned, since our 12.5, our strategy has been to release pieces of functionality into the service stream so that you could take advantage of those without doing a complete upgrade. We're going to be talking about what those features were and how they were delivered in 12.5 SP1. Going forward on our next release, it is the same type of strategy. We'll be releasing a feature set with a number of different features later this year, and that can be applied as a patch on top of 12.5 SP1. So 12.5 SP1 is not just a series of patches. It is supplied as a new DVD set. It's your typical top-down upgrade that we traditionally do, but I do want to mention that the new agent, the 12.5 SP1 agent, can be managed by the r12.5 management infrastructure or the r12 or r12 SP1. We did also send out with the GA of R12.5 SP1 an end of service notification for the R12 and R12.5 or R12 SP1 platforms. Now that is a year out, so mid-April next year in 2013, those will enter end of service. So you'll want to start planning your upgrade to 12.5 SP1 as soon as possible, and then that also allows you to take advantage of some of the additional features that we will be delivering this year in the service stream. Just wanted to briefly talk about the new platforms that support that we added in this service pack. Now, a lot of these were added in the service stream, so they're available, and a number of them were added discreetly in Service Pack 1. So I would encourage you to go to the support site, support.ca.com, and refer to the compatibility matrix for a full list of supported platforms. So I wanted to talk about the new features in SP1, and I wanted to start with desktop virtualization. So we added support for VMware View, and in our feature pack that we'll be adding later this year, we'll have the same type of support for Citrix Zen Desktop. So when you're managing virtual desktops, you still need to manage the life cycle of those. Even though the computing power has been moved from a person's desktop or laptop into the data center, you still need to manage the life cycle events of that virtual machine or linked clone. You have to do things like install software that may not be contained on that golden image. You'll have to do emergency patch management. If a critical security patch comes out and you don't want to re-image everything with the clone technology, you'll need to push that out discreetly. You'll also want to be able to understand what you have and where it is. So the hosts, where they're located, the guests that are on that host. So we added the support for all of that across VMware View. And this enables you to manage your virtual desktops in the same way with the same policies and from the same management system as you do your physical desktops. And it gives you that broad overall view of your distributed base, whether it's physical or virtual. One of the things that I did want to talk about was that while we were developing this, we spoke with a large number of people and partners who were either implementing proof of concepts for VDI or actually rolling out VDI to certain groups of users where they had a business case to do so. And they told us about a dilemma that they were having. They wanted to take advantage of the value proposition of VDI, but they were unable to realize that value proposition and the overall lower total cost of ownership because of the way that these VDI systems work. Both VMware and Citrix have the concepts of golden images that can be used, and that golden image is propagated to the individual desktops upon login. And this is called different things in different technology. In VMware View, it's called a floating pool, and in Citrix, it's called the difference disk. And when they were using this method, every time that that golden image or base image is changed, which for Microsoft images, it's going to be every Patch Tuesday, so once a month. Any software that is not discreetly installed on that golden image, but the user has installed on their own image, that installation is lost because it's not saved off in your personal folder with your data. It's not in that differences disk. And so what was happening is that the users that were on a clone were having to request the software to be installed again after that recomposition. And this proved to be time and resource intensive because, their help desks and their networks were tied up redistributing software to those users after a recompose. So they weren't able to realize the benefits of using the floating pools, and they reverted to using dedicated virtual machines instead. And this, of course, dramatically increases the storage needs for a VDI solution. So to address this, when we added support, the standard lifecycle support, all of the great things that IT Client Manager does to manage lifecycle events, we also added a solution that's going to be able to address that gap in functionality, which is primarily losing any of your natively installed software on that cloned VM. And there are a number of ways that we implemented that you can do this because there are a number of different use cases that you might need to cover. The first one is that client automation, ITCM, has always kept track of an individual system software configuration. We know what's been installed, and so after a recompose, you can automatically access those records and automate the redeployment of that discretely installed software. using software delivery. Now, this may not be the best solution because if you have a lot of discretely installed software, you're going to run into the same problem. Although they're not calling the help desk to have it reinstalled, you could tie up your network. So we also allow the administrator to put all or at least most of the software that each individual user is going to need on your base image without exposing any of its entry points like the start menu or your shortcuts. And then after a recompose, you can automate the delivery of a small software package containing those entry points. And those can be automatically deployed to the users that need them and expose the applications that they need to have access to. Now, this entry points distribution is typically a very small package, so it's going to have a lot less impact on your network and your infrastructure to deliver this after a recompose. The other method, and probably the most efficient one as far as tying up your network, is to use a function in Client Automation. Client Automation has a native packager, and someone is changing my slides for me. So we have a native packager, and using this native packager, you can set a filter configuration on the software packages. And what that does is allow only the users entitled to that application through Active Directory to view it. So an admin can install, the vast majority of the software necessary to support the majority of their users and entitle them to that software through Active Directory. And then when you recompose, that user, when they log in and get assigned their clone, they're automatically going to be able to see the applications that they're entitled to with no additional software delivery or provisioning. So while we've added support for VMware View in Service Pack 1, we're adding support for Citrix XenDesktop in our feature pack that's coming out later this year. Now, as I've said, the same concepts for VDI Management will be supported for Citrix XenDesktop as for VMware View. Support for that golden template, support for inventory, software delivery, patch management, as well as these ways to ease the pressure after a recompose. And this is just some screenshots of what that looks like. Another thing that I wanted to talk about a little bit was that in the inventory, we keep track of the host and all of its guests. So you're able to track all of that throughout your system. Hypervisor provisioning. Now, you can't really support a comprehensive VDI solution without being able to support the provisioning of those hypervisors. So in SP1, we've added bare metal installation of VMware View, or VMware ESX and ESXi. And we also include provisioning ESX to SAN devices. And in our feature pack this next summer, we're going to be adding bare metal installation of Citrix Zen Server 5.5 and 5.6. And again, that will be out in a feature pack later this year. Another thing that we've done is added the capabilities for remote virtual inventory or agentless. A lot of the hypervisors you are unable to install any software on. It's not recommended, and in some cases, if you do install software on there, they're no longer supported by the vendor. So what we did was developed a remote asset management inventory agent. What you do is install this RVI agent on a system in your management infrastructure, and you specify the virtual hosts in a collect task on that agent. And then when you run that agent to collect the inventory, it connects to those hosts and collects that inventory remotely. Now, it will also establish a relationship in your console and your inventory between your hosts and its guests, and you do that by installing an agent on your guest systems. So these are the platforms that we've added agentless platform inventory on in 12.0 and SP1, and those that we added support for in 12.5. We're continually adding support as new virtualization platforms come out. RVI is going to be, of course, part of that certification to support those systems. Another thing that we've added in SP1, and again, this came out as a patch on top of 12.5, so some of you may already be using this, and that is an automated Windows desktop migration process. Now, client automation has always supported the depth of functionality that's required to migrate to new operating systems. That functionality includes the OS installation, software delivery, user state migration using Desktop Migration Manager. And what we've done here with the addition of automated migration function is that we will guide you through the process of planning, configuring, and building a runbook-driven automated migration process. Now, the way we've designed this, you can use it not only for those big life cycle events where you're doing large-scale migrations to a new operating system, but you're able to reuse the automated processes that you configure for everyday life cycle events. So, you have the user that has lost or destroyed their computer over the weekend and come in and they need a new system. You can just use a pre-configured process that you already have in place and completely automate a no-touch migration. Now, the way we've done this is by adding a number of templates. The first template that I wanted to talk about was an assessment template. So the first thing you need to do is understand what is out there in your install base. Are these computers that are out there able to handle the new operating system? Are they going to need upgrades of certain components or a complete replace? So we've created an assessment template that you can define, something as easy as specify the RAM, the hard disk size, and the processor speed, or you can select just the computer models that you want to have as a minimum basis to support the new operating system, or you can even use client automation ITCM queries that you've already configured, and you use these to assess the computers that you want to migrate to the new operating system. Now, once you've defined your assessment templates, you assign those to groups, and it will go out and then create two subgroups. One that will be new OS ready, and that's going to include all of your computers that meet your hardware criteria that you've specified. And then you'll have the group new OS not ready, which will include all of those computers that don't meet your specified hardware criteria. And at this point, you can go in and make a determination on what you want to do with those computers that aren't ready. Either upgrade certain components like your graphic card, or whether you want some or all of the computers in this group to be replaced. Now, after you've done that, you build up all of your OS images, you create your software delivery packages that are going to be used in your automated process, and those are available to the system. You also will want to configure Desktop Migration Manager to, what you want to gather as far as system and application settings and data from those specific user machines. And then we have two other templates that you'll want to configure. We have an OS template that's going to define which operating system images to associate with target computers. And then we have a software template. And the software template is a pretty powerful tool which can save you a lot of time during lifecycle migration events. So the software template wizard guides you through a number of steps to define what needs to happen before and after an OS deployment. So it's not only software delivery, it's also processes and procedures that you want to run. And then you can define what software you want installed that's not already on the image. It allows you to select those software packages from your library and then allows you to map older versions of an application to a newer version of an application. So for instance, if the user on their old Windows XP system had Office 2003 and on the new Windows 8 system after you lay down that operating system, you want the newest version of Microsoft Office to be laid down instead of the older version. You map those, and then during your automated process, it's automatically going to install what you've defined. Office is probably a bad example because that will probably be on your OS image, but that's the theory anyway. And then once you have created all of your templates and all of your supporting artifacts like your operating system images and your software packages, then you're ready to do your migration. You can do a wipe and reload, you can do a machine replacement, and most of these are no-touch migrations. Now, this is driven through IT process automation, and we include that. You can download that when you download the newer versions of Client Automation, and we include the content. So essentially, you configure all of these automated templates and configure how your process is going to run, and then you run your assessment on a target group. It creates a Windows 7 subgroup. Then you initiate your redeployment. And what will happen when you initiate your redeployment is Desktop Migration Manager is going to go out there and capture all of your settings and your data, and it's going to store it in a location, the scalability server, for instance. Then it will wipe and reload your existing system with the specified OS image, or configure your new system with that OS image. Then it's going to run software delivery, install any software that's not contained on that image as you have specified. Then it's going to apply your desktop settings and data back to that user. And of course, we support tracking of all of this process through the CABI reporting using Voxy. This is just an example of the web console interface, which is where you create all of your templates and configure your migration job. So all of these have been added in the web console, and you may notice that our web console has a no look and feel, and the automated migration is a tab on the navigation. Now, reporting and analysis, on top of 12.5, we added a patch to support CA Business Intelligence reporting. CA Business Intelligence leverages Voxy reporting, and when you get SP1 and download it, if you haven't already downloaded the CABI patch, you will download and install CA Business Intelligence. It is a very powerful tool, and we've made most of our database available in the CABI reporting instance. So it's a single web-based reporting interface. It includes predefined reports that we have done, and then it has a very powerful ad hoc reporting utility. You can create reports, you can post them to a website, you can email them. It is really a powerful tool, so we encourage you to go take a look at that. Now, in 12.5 SP1, we have a total of 43 out-of-the-box reports, and all of these reports have multiple filters, and you're able to drill down and get a level of detail that the DSM Explorer reporting doesn't support. So while, 43 reports out of the box doesn't seem like much, you're able to drill down through those and configure them in ways that are very interesting. And then you're also able to create your own ad hoc reports. Now, in our next release that's coming out later this year, the feature pack, we will have access to all of the database information. So I've already really covered this, but you are able to create a further 87 different types of ad hoc reports. Now, I also wanted to mention that we're not deprecating the DSM reporter. All of those reports are still available, so if you've configured any customization in those will be available going forward also. This is a feature, Enhanced Software Detection and Inventory, that we're adding in our feature pack. This is not in Service Pack 1, but this is something that we're going to be adding, and it will be available in beta, as I said, in June. So right now, Client Automation, IT Client Manager, supports two different ways of doing discovering inventory. One is heuristics, and the other is signature-based by CA published signatures, that we publish a signature for each release, each dot version, and each patch version, and those are all separate signatures. What we're doing is adding a third method, and that's called IntelliSigs. Now, this is going to be a script-based method of detection. and you can create one script, one IntelliSig script for a product and a version, and then you do not have to update that for any dot versions or any patch levels. So it increases the longevity and usefulness of a single IntelliSig script. Now, we are going to be producing CA content produced IntelliSigs that will be available through the content service, just like your regular signatures are available through that content download service. And we're also going to be supporting custom scripts. So if you have an in-house application that you need to do discovery and inventory on, you'll be able to create your own IntelliSig, upload it, and use it. And then I wanted to talk about power management and green IT. In the 12.5 release, we added a green IT assessment in our asset intelligence tool. And it goes out there and collects all of your power settings and does some analysis across your install base. On your power management drift, you know, if you have a policy and you've set all of your images to have a certain power setting, users go in and change them all the time. I know I do. And you can measure that power drift over time. You can show your power management schemes, what you have set up on individual computers and groups of computers. You can show your power component map, monitor powering, power off timing, hard drive power off timing, standby timing, all of those things that you have set up and that users can customize. Now, with our next release, which is coming out as a feature pack later this year, and this will also be included as part of that beta that is targeted for June, we have the capability to do active green IT management. Now, to access this, you will need to have an ecoDesktop license, which is why we've invited Brian Barnes to give it a demonstration of ecoDesktop, which is a very powerful tool. But what we've added are methods for active green IT management and remediation. So you're able to centrally configure and manage and enforce these green IT policies. So you can create a policy that controls your power off settings. You can initiate system shutdown, hibernate or sleep. You can shut off monitors. And you can do this in a friendly way, you know, sending custom messages to users with the ability for them to cancel or defer. And then you are also able to, of course, do reporting of your power settings in CABI reporting. So in order to support active green IT management, we've added a new type of assessment job called green IT remediation. So you're able to set a policy that defines your power saving scheme and your battery power saving settings, and you schedule this just like you would any other type of asset job. So if you do see a drift of your power settings over time, people are going in and changing them so that it never goes into hibernate or sleep, you can automatically assess that when the agent runs the inventory, and it will automatically reset those power settings for you. You are also able to do friendly user interaction with this. So you can warn users that they're on a policy that, you know, it's after 6 p.m. and they're a knowledge worker and they typically use at 5. So if their computer is still powered up, pop a message that says you're going to go into hibernation or your system's going to power down, so save your work, and allow you to defer or cancel that, or go ahead and enter hibernation immediately. So the features that we're going to be adding in our feature pack later this year, and that we will be putting into beta, currently targeted in the June timeframe, are the VDI Management for XenDesktop, Hypervisor provisioning for Xen Server, additional CA Business Intelligence reporting, and the active green IT management. One thing that I missed on here was the IntelliSigs, so that additional form of discovery and inventory that we're adding will also be in beta during this time frame. Now, because this isn't a full release, it is going to be an abbreviated beta, and we're going to be starting beta recruiting very soon. It's not going to be a fully open beta. It's by request only, so please contact me if you're interested in testing any of these features. We'll get you the information in the next couple of weeks, actually, so that you can start your planning, so that you have time set aside to test the features that you want to test that will be in beta. So again, please call me or contact me if you want to participate in that beta. Now, I wanted to just take a few minutes and talk about features that are on our next release list. Now, this would be the release after the feature pack this summer. So we wanted to add some self-service software catalog enhancements. The main enhancement that we want to implement is a web-based self-service software catalog. Currently, the software catalog is installed on the end user system with the software delivery agent. This would be a URL that you could configure that would display to the users based on their entitlements. So we also want to add features that will improve the administration, configuration, and organization of this web catalog. So right now, it just lists a list of packages that are in your software delivery library. We're adding changes that will allow you to define user-friendly names for software packages that are in your library. Will allow you to categorize those. So if you have a number of different browsers a user can choose from, it's not just an alphabetized list of your packages anymore. You'll be able to have a category called browsers, and then they can choose either Internet Explorer or Firefox, for instance. So you'll be able to configure and organize all of that. And we're also going to add the ability to deliver jobs and procedures that you configure in ITCM. Right now, the software catalog just delivers catalog your software library packages. So you'll be able to do things such as, and this is an example of delivering a procedure, is put your patches in the software catalog. So a user can go out and from the catalog update their patch level as one example of distributing a procedure. And then you'll also be able to select multiple software applications. If you're familiar with our software catalog right now, you go through a wizard, you pick the software, a single piece of software that you want installed, and exit the wizard. If you want to request multiple software applications, you go through that wizard however many times you need to. So we're adding the ability to go through, say I want Firefox and I want a photo editing tool. I can pick both of those at the same time, and those will be scheduled for delivery. We're also going to be adding some enhancements for location awareness so that your agent can connect to the nearest scalability server based on IP address. So say I'm based in the UK and I go to our New York office. Instead of connecting back to the scalability server in the UK, it's going to connect to the scalability server in that office that I'm nearest to for more efficient ways to get me my jobs and manage my system. We'll also put in a way to prioritize your packages and jobs. So if you're not reporting to your home scalability server, you're roaming and you're at a satellite office, I might not want to download my big photo editing application, but I certainly want to get all my patch jobs that are pushed out to me through policies. So you'll be able to prioritize your jobs so that if you are roaming, you manage that system in the most efficient way possible. And then throttling for job delivery. We also wanted to add some infrastructure monitoring, so monitor the health of your domain and scalability servers and your agents. We wanted to add some things for failover, so if a scalability server is not available, connect to the backup scalability server that you've defined when you configure your infrastructure. We also wanted to add agent resiliency. So if an agent for some reason is broken, when it connects to the scalability server is going to understand that and download the new agent. Additionally, when we have patches for the agent or new agents, when an old agent connects into the scalability server, it will automatically download that new agent for, the ability to more quickly roll out new releases of the agent. And then dynamic load balancing, the ability, if a scalability server is close to being maxed out, go ahead and move to a different scalability server so that you are able to manage your endpoints in the most efficient manner within your infrastructure. And then we have some replication enhancements that we want to add. Right now, the engine tasks for replications from your enterprise down to your domain servers are all linked. So if you have one enterprise and you have 7 domain servers and you're replicating jobs down to those domain servers, you may have 3 domain servers that replication is complete fairly quickly, and you may have another domain server where it's taking a while. Now, those jobs aren't available at any of those domain servers until they're all downloaded completely to the individual domains. What we'd like to do is make that download independent. So if a replication completes to one domain server, that domain server can start using those jobs immediately without having to wait for everything to replicate down throughout your infrastructure. All right, at this point, I would like to open it up for questions for client automation and the things that we've discussed today before turning it over to Brian Barnes to give us a demo and an overview of ecoDesktop. So Vanessa, could we open it up for questions just for a few minutes before we go to the demo?
At this time, if you would like to ask a question, press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. Again, that is star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. We'll pause for a moment to compile the Q&A roster.
We did have a question come in online, and that question is, what is the scripting language for IntelliSigs? IntelliSigs will use XML scripting. You can use DSM scripting, so it's pretty open.
And again, to ask a question, press star 1.
Again, I'd like to encourage everyone to contact me if you are interested in testing any of the features that we're going to be releasing as a feature pack in the summer time frame. Again, that beta is targeted to start in June, and it will be a short managed beta.
And at this time, there are no questions via phone lines.
Okay, there was one more question that came in over the live meeting, and that's how do we get access to 12.5 SP1. As long as you have a current maintenance, you are able to go to support.ca.com, and in the download area, you will see r12.5 SP1, as well as access to install IT process automation to use the automated desktop migration feature, and CA business intelligence reporting. So that's all available on support.ca.com in the download area at this time. So if there are no more questions, Vanessa, we can mute the lines again and turn it over to Brian Barnes, who is our CA product manager for ecoDesktop. Brian, I'll turn it over to you at this point.
Great. Thanks, Laurel. We switch over to some slides, and we'll start with introduction via PowerPoint. So again, my name is Brian Barnes. I'm the product manager for ecoMeter, which is CA's energy management solution for the data center, and for ecoDesktop, which is our energy efficiency solution for desktop computers in the enterprise. So what is ecoDesktop? So Laurel talked a little bit about functionalities coming out in the next release for green IT remediation within ITCM. But today we do have a product that is GA and available to be purchased, and a number of customers using it. It's part of ITCM, and it's built within ITCM. It's basically designed to push out power profiles to desktops, laptops, and point-of-sale devices. It'll enable the computer itself, the monitor, and disk drive to sleep or hibernate automatically when not being used. It also has the ability to enable CPU throttling when available, and it has some other utilities to make using these functions a little more smooth to your end users. For example, allowing touching the keyboard or moving the mouse to wake up the computer. It also includes a few more tables in the database, a models data table and a countries table. And this is for the reporting that we do so that you can see the savings that you're getting from ecoDesktop. A number of out-of-the-box reporting via Boxy. And basically, ecoDesktop is a great ROI. So if you kind of think about, the landscape of desktops and laptops out there, on average, 36% of desktops are not turned off at night. And I'm sure everyone walks around, at 6 o'clock at night and you can see monitors and desktops that are on and there's no one there. And this is exactly what ecoDesktop targets. And by doing this, you reduce waste of energy, and energy is definitely not free. We also establish a baseline, so once you get ecoDesktop working, it'll understand what all your computers are doing, and then as you push out profiles and start to see that being utilized, you'll see exactly the savings that you're seeing. And this is more important than just knowing that it's working. It can be really important in reporting to various like ISO standards or to your sustainability folks. And the product's really focused on eliminating the waste, but also not annoying your users, which is key. So how is CA ecoDesktop different than other solutions out there today? One is because we are using ITCM and it is agent-based, we are able to get much more accurate measurement as far as the savings that we are actually getting. Because of the profile approach, and we can create lots of different scenarios so that your users will not be won't be annoyed, and have lots of other scripts also to make things easier for them. And typically not for non-ITCM customers, but the fact that we are using ITCM, this is a rock-solid platform that's been out in production for years, and it's not something that is being introduced from a startup company without the same experience. So so one of the things I said is that ecoDesktop is a great ROI. And so if you think that there are 36% of the desktops that are left on at night, and you take that a desktop should essentially be off or asleep 7,000 hours out of the year. So there's 8,760 hours in a year. Basically 7,000 hours it should not be on. And a desktop, when idling, uses about 100 watts on average. So that's 700 kilowatt hours per year per desktop. So if you take 700 kilowatt hours and multiply it by the 36% of the desktops that are left on at night, you get about $30 a desktop when you're using 12 cents per kilowatt hour blended rate. Now, depending on where you are, that 12 cents a kilowatt hour is either very cheap or very expensive. But that's a blended rate that is average for the United States and probably low for Europe and other countries. So the fact that you're going to get about $30 a desktop per year in savings, and currently the list price for CA ecoDesktop is $25, your payback is less than 1 year. So most IT projects, when you take them to finance with a payback of less than 1 year, get approved very quickly, and ecoDesktop is a great way to save money and help the planet. So an example of some of the data that we collect, this should look pretty standard to ITCM users out there. This is a very typical set of information that ecoDesktop will retrieve via the agent, but there's some great numbers in here. Longest uptime, 122 days. I mean, this isn't something that we edited just to make it look astounding. is right off of somebody's computer. So 122 days without ever being slept or turned off. Huge amount of waste. So part of ecoDesktop is a models database. If you have, and we have a wide variety of models in that database, but if your company has special like point-of-sale devices or models that we're not familiar with, those models can be profiled using a special tool, and then that data will be entered into our database quite easily. And this is just something that, if you want to get, you don't need to do this, but if you want to get really granular, really accurate data, that's the level of detail we can take ecoDesktop down to. So this is just an example of a customer in, I believe, Sweden, where you can see that they had only about 2,600 desktops. And you can see the various hours spent, average uptime, the hours versus the optimal hours. And so if you see the optimal hours is the optimal number of hours the PC should be on. So these folks are working, I would say, less than an 8-hour day. But you can see this column versus this column, the difference is significant. And this basically worked out to about 220 kilowatt hours per day. So the initial ROI that I talked about was just kind of back of the envelope. This is actually putting agents or NRIs on each computer, finding out exactly how much time these computers are on or off, and then creating this report from that. So this company was able to save $127,000 approximately per year based upon only 2,600 desktops. So this was a huge win. And in Sweden, and cost of energy is higher in the United States, so the ROI is really strong. So what are some of the benefits of ecoDesktop? As I've talked about, you're reducing your energy consumption and the costs associated with it. You're reducing your CO2 emissions that are associated with the energy, and you're documenting your CO2 savings, which can be key for ISO 14001 or other certifications that your company might be chasing. Obviously, better environment is a great profile for your enterprise. If your end users are actually physically shutting down their computers at night, which is another great way to save energy, this is actually a much faster way to get the computer up and running in the morning by just sleeping it. Something all of your employees are going to see since everyone's using keyboards or computers these days. And we just recently got ecoDesktop approved for a $15 rebate from PG&E out in California. So this is something that either you can do to your utility or we can work with you to get a rebate, and that brings your payback down into the months category. So there's lots of money out there. Let me go ahead and share my screen and show you quickly what we've got. So I will warn you, this computer that I'm working on is in India, so it's not that fast, but you'll get the idea. So I hope you recognize ITCM. There's a couple different parts in here that are key to the product. One of them is the groups. So you can see there's a number of ecoDesktop groups over here on the left. Each computer needs to be a part of 3 different ecoDesktop groups for different reasons. The first one is the locations group. So we define a location out of the box. It comes as countries or the states in the United States. The locations database is providing a blended kilowatt hours to dollars conversion rate and a kilowatt hours to kilograms of CO2 conversion rate. So that's the first group. That's the first job of this group, is to really be able to take the kilowatt hours that we calculate and convert it into either monetize it or CO2. The second group that's important is the ecoDesktop profile. And this is what provides the optimum uptime as a percentage. So if you can calculate the number of working hours that is typical in maybe a development organization or a sales organization, that percentage, which is the number at the end, is used to compare what's actual. So you know whether you're doing well or bad versus what is optimal. And then lastly, are the profiles that are associated with what functionality you want to push off. So you might have a lot of desktops in a data center that you just always want, not obviously in the data center, but in like a NOC or some sort of area where you need them 24/7. So you'd want to report on what those are doing, but you'd want to make sure you excluded them from going to sleep, for example. You can see we've created a few different groups here for the computer's always on, but the monitor can sleep. Always on and monitor on, cash register. And so by being able to define exactly the profiles that you want, for example, some people may want their CPU throttled while they're on battery, others they never want it. You have a lot of flexibility, and I'm sure you're familiar with that with ITCM. So the second key component of ecoDesktop within ITCM are the various jobs. And these jobs can be used to get the uptime, to understand when tasks are going to be scheduled so that you're not turning off, putting sleep computers that are about to get software pushed to them. And then there's how we set the power scheme. And so today we do this with an ecoDesktop script. You can come right into the script and set the timeout for the monitor or the disk, whether you want it to hibernate or not, the CPU throttling, all of that is available in here, and you can just edit it and save it, and then push that out to the appropriate group. What Laurel talked about with the new features that are coming out this summer takes the scripts away and builds it natively into ITCM. So you'll have the same great ROI story, but even a better integration with ITCM. The next piece that comes with, well, I didn't mean to start here, but okay, let's start here. The next piece is we provide, I guess we won't start here, a set of reports with Boxy that are out of the box to help you understand exactly what what ecoDesktop is providing for you. Well, since I already showed you the fun executive dashboard, let's start there. So the executive dashboard is more of an operational dashboard, giving you insight into not only the benefits that ecoDesktop is providing, but it can also help you understand where you may want to look at for trying to get even more savings. So you can look at the desktop either in dollars or convert your dollars into your local currency, usage, which is kilowatt hours, or kilograms of CO2. So we just start with usage. That'll bring up the dashboard. And again, I apologize, it's not the fastest machine. Bring up the dashboard in kilowatt hours. And then there are basically 4 basic charts there for helping you understand exactly the desktop power usage in your organization. So the first chart on the left shows the various locations, and like I said, we have these locations based by country, or they can be the states, United States, and you can customize that and make that even more granular. Expected are the green bars, which define the optimum uptime, and then the gold is what is actually going on there. So not only can I see that we're not doing that well, we're doing okay in Germany right now, but United Kingdom is doing horribly. And so if we were trying to, get more aggressive with our savings, the United Kingdom would be a place to focus. We also get a pie chart showing the percentage of kilowatt hours based upon by location. And then we have two other portlets in here for, again, kind of helping you figure out where you want to drill in. So this first chart here, this bubble chart, is showing how much deviation you have from the ideal power policy versus how much usage you actually have, and then the size of the bubble is how many desktops there is. So what you're looking for in this chart is the biggest bubble that's furthest to the left and up highest, meaning it's got the most computers doing the worst performance, and it's the biggest bang for the buck, basically. And this is not done by location. This is done by type of computer. So this orange, the mini tower, seems to be performing the worst, and maybe the scripts need to be tweaked, or the users aren't using it right, or these are just really old computers and they use a lot more power when they're sleeping than a newer, modern Energy Star type computer. So this allows you to look for computer types that are outside of the energy envelope. On the right, we basically have two top, bottom 5 charts, and this is development data, so it's not the best data in the world, and we only have 5 locations. But basically, what it will show you is either your 5 worst locations and your 5 best locations. So the idea is, the worst locations is where you might want to target, and the best locations would be more like, and it's normalized by number of machines. And that will give you an idea of where you may want to understand why it's working so well. So why is India doing so good, and why is and maybe we can take what they're doing in India and apply it to the United Kingdom to try to get their numbers down to something more usable. A couple of other reports that we have, and I won't open them all up for you. So we have what we consider a bad data. So you're not always getting good data from your computers, and when the data isn't good, we exclude it from the reporting. So this will help you understand what machines are not providing back the right data, so that you can work to try to rectify that solution, or we can work with you and bring them into the reporting, and also help them, actually go to sleep, and maybe if they have insomnia, cure that issue. CPU utilization report give you an idea of, what computers aren't being used versus what computers really are being used. This is again by location. You can see the models that are set up. So this is the database of models is very detailed, but you're not going to use all the models for every company. So this will actually show you what models have been used and some of the information that's associated with it. So again, this is a development environment, and so we only have basically 5 models, which is very unusual. Most of them are this mini tower that seems to be doing poorly from an energy-wise. But you can see the minimum watts, the maximum watts that are associated with each one. And then our other reports, the location data, if you want to understand how we're converting CO2 equivalent or to dollars, that would be done through here. And then, I'll just kind of end on the actual versus expected report, which instead of being done by location, which is done in the executive dashboard, is done by the model of the computer. That really ends what I wanted to show you. Open it up to questions. Hello?
Vanessa, could we open the line up for questions at this point for Brian?
If you have a question, press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. Again, star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. We'll pause for a moment to compile the Q&A roster. And again, if you have a question, press star 1. I'm showing we have no questions at this time.
Well, great. Well, thank you all for your time. I appreciate it. If you have any other questions down the road, mine and Laurel's email was available. Mine, again, is brian.barnes@ca.com. Hopefully we can help you save energy.
Thank you, Brian. If there are any other questions for IT Client Manager, again, I wanted to remind people, contact me if you're interested in beta testing any of the features we talked about, which will be implemented and ready for beta later this summer. Please contact me. We'll also be setting up a beta discussion chat board, so if you are participating in the beta, we'll have an area